Chapter 1201. In addition, if Gongzi encounters any trouble or difficulties outside, by virtue of your status as a guest, you can ask our Dark Color Arena for help. But there is only one free chance a year. At other times, if Gongzi wants to use our Dark Color Arena's strength, you have to use contribution points to exchange. The deacon of the dark-colored arena smiled and said, "Young master, when our dark-colored arena needs you, you can take part in a literary battle for us. Every time you win, you'll get a chance to fight for our dark-colored arena. You can use it to ask our dark-colored arena to do anything we can." Oh? So many benefits? Luo Qingtong looked at the Dark Color Arena's deacon. To be honest, she was also very interested in this Dark Color Arena. Not to mention other things, the literary battle method was really very original. It was similar to the Roman Colosseum's primitive and bloody battle, but it could also satisfy the participants' heart's brutality, and it would not cause any harm to the opponent. Just based on this point, who knows how many people would be attracted to come and gamble. More importantly, the other party's special tool for the literary battle was really not ordinary. Luo Qingtong guessed that there must be a saint-level tool refiner or above behind the other party. Luo Qingtong was very interested in that tool. If this thing was used well and improved, it would definitely be a great tool for training soldiers. However, the person who refined the tool had added a trace of divine sense, and it was connected to the other party's mind. Luo Qingtong was unable to analyze the tool's composition and refining method, otherwise, the other party would capture her aura. Moreover, with her current strength, it was not enough to refine this special tool. As a result, Luo Qingtong wanted to join the other party, and see if she could get some of these special tools. But thinking of the guest's request, which was to help them in the literary battle when they needed it, Luo Qingtong immediately gave up on this idea. She had too many things to do, and might not have the time. Forget it. Thinking like this, she wanted to refuse. At this time, Yu Sihuang's voice sounded in her ear. "You can agree. Behind the Dark Color Arena, there are people from the hidden world. You will enter the hidden world sooner or later. If you agree to his request, it will be good for you and your subordinates. As for his request for the literary battle, it is not mandatory. Just agree to it. When he asks you to go to the literary battle, you will go if you have time. If you don't have time, don't go. As far as I know, the Dark Colors only do this once a year. They gather all the guest elders of the Wendul and ask them to help with the Wendul. And from the last time, it has been just a few days." Yu Sihuang's voices suddenly, Luo Qingtong, of course, Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong's, Luo Qingtong. As the lord of the southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands, he would definitely know more about these matters than he did of SSSA's words. SSSSSS. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. If the dark color was really related to the hidden world, then there was absolutely no harm in becoming a guest. Luo Qingtong did not forget that she had to go to the hidden world to find news about her father and mother. Not to mention that her mother was from the outside world, she might not necessarily go to the hidden world. But her father, as a person from the true Spill continent, would definitely go to the hidden world to find her. Chapter 1202. Luo Qingtong thought so and immediately said to the deacon of the dark-colored arena, "Okay." As she spoke, she raised her hand and took the guest elder token from the deacon. The latter also had a face full of confidence and didn't think that Luo Qingtong would refuse their request. When he explained to Luo Qingtong, the guest official token was already prepared. When Luo Qingtong agreed, he directly handed it over. Luo Qingtong looked at the 2 words, Yijiu, engraved on it and smiled slightly. You dark-colored arena people are really confident. Even the token was made on the spot. They weren't afraid that she wouldn't agree. We dark-colored arena people believe in our strength. Of course, we also believe in your choice. It won't be wrong. The deacon of the dark-colored arena said with a smile. Guest official Yi, take care," he said, slightly bowed to Luo Qingtong and then retreated. Looking at his back, Luo Qingtong's heart was somewhat pensive. It seemed that the dark-colored arena people attached great importance to the one duel. They invited so many guest chamberlains to the hidden world to compete. It was likely that there were some benefits involved in this. But this had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong for the time being. According to what Yu Sihuang said, the last guest official when duel just ended not long ago. Even if the dark-colored people wanted to invite people to the one duel, it would take at least half a year. Luo Qingtong thought so and immediately put away the dark-colored guest official token in her hand. Tong tong, Yu Sihuang swayed his hair and walked in front of Luo Qingtong. Just as he was about to say something, the young man smiled and used the sword hilt to press against the weak spot on his waist. "Don't call me that disgusting." "What tong tong?" Luo Qingtong only felt goosebumps rising. Yi Qianxian didn't call her that. This Yu Sihuang could also do it. Luo Qingtong looked at his body swaying gracefully and amorous appearance and her lips twitched. She suddenly had a very strong feeling, and that was, agreeing with Yu Sihuang to travel with her, was definitely a very big mistake. Especially for her. Annoying. Isn't this showing off my daughter's delicate appearance? Otherwise, why would I dress up like this? Yu Sihuang threw the handkerchief in his hand at her with a coquettish face. He had a sad face before, thinking that his sister's idea of him dressing up as a woman was too deceitful. It destroyed his image as the future overlord of the 3 islands and 7 lands. But now looking at Luo Qingtong's reaction, he suddenly felt that this idea wasn't bad. At least compared to when he and Luo Qingtong first met, the other person's face was not so cold and her face was Face's face. Yu Sihuang prepared to continue to try and get closer to her. It was rare that Yi Qianxian, that demon god, wasn't here, so he naturally wanted to seize this opportunity. Thinking like this, he suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong with a bitter face and said, "Tong tong, you're too much. You're simply throwing me away after using me. You heartless man. I even helped you just now." Naturally, Yu Sihuang was talking about Elder Pan. Originally, he was still considering whether to kill the other person to silence him. Who let the other person see his current appearance and know his identity? But that Elder Pan was smart, directly sticking to Luo Qingtong. The latter said to spare his life, so Yu Sihuang didn't care. After the other person felt his murderous aura, he didn't dare to go back and talk about it. Chapter 1203. Yu Sihuang's current appearance was really pitiful. He looked exactly like a pitiful woman who was abandoned. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched fiercely. She wanted to ask him if he was addicted to acting. When she was free, she would find a brothel for him to act as a top courtesan. Only then would his evil and enchanting face not be wasted. Luo Qingtong thought like this. She glanced at him angrily. Then she said to Su Yu and the others, "Let's go. Let's just let him act alone." She was not going to accompany him. As for the favor, she cured his heart disease before and saved his life. How many favors did she owe him? He was not done yet. And he wanted her to repay him? Luo Qingtong simply turned around. Su Yu and the others looked at Yu Sihuang with sympathy. Then they immediately followed her footsteps. Hey, such a beautiful girl, how could she fall in love with their master? Their master was a woman. He was definitely going to be a heartless man. The group of people did not know the identity of Yu Sihuang and Yu Xingqi. They immediately sighed in their hearts. But after knowing Yu Sihuang's identity, they suddenly felt like they were struck by lightning. It was simply overturning their worldview. When Yu Sihuang saw Luo Qingtong and the others leave, he couldn't care less about pretending anymore. "Hey! Tong tong! You wait!" He hurriedly chased after them. Yu Xingqi carried the little white cat and followed behind him. He could not help but roll his eyes. He did not want to admit that this person was his brother. What should he do? The group of people walked out of the dark arena. Luo Qingtong was preparing to ask Suyu about the recent situation in the western wilderness. Then she heard a burst of noise coming from the front. She looked up and suddenly saw a group of people walking over with great fanfare. The leader was a man wearing a white robe with bamboo embroidered on it. That outfit was elegant and graceful. But the other party's eyes were somewhat deep and cold. He didn't seem to be such a noble person. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and saw that the group of people were stunned when they saw them. Then, the leader of the group, a young man in white, hurriedly walked towards them. Suyu, are you all right? I've received news from my subordinates that the Chen clan has asked Elder Pan of the astonishing Heaven Sect to act against the people of the heavenly diabolism. Thank you for your concern, young Master Bai. The matter has been resolved. Seeing this person, Suyu frowned and immediately took a step back to avoid the other party's outstretched hand. The latter's hand was still in midair. Suddenly, anger and sternness flashed in his eyes. At the same time, there was also a deep sense of doubt. What's going on? Bai Jintang's eyes shone with a cold light. He was the one who brought Elder Pan and the Chen clan together. At this moment, Suyu and Tian Xie's people should be trapped in the dark-colored arena, with no one to respond to them, their faces filled with despair. When most of the people of the heavenly diabolism were killed, he would make a move. With the identity of the Bai clan, he would save Suyu. How could he not be grateful to him? At that time, what could he do to him? Didn't he have no choice but to obey him? How did they come out of the dark arena? Who was the one who ruined his plans? Bai Jintang was furious. Chapter 1204. The matter here was almost over, so he had to return to his family as soon as possible. However, he was extremely unwilling to let go of such a beauty for no reason. However, Bai Jintang's thoughts were very deep. Even though he was angry, he didn't show it on his face. Even when Suyu avoided his hand, he didn't show any anger on his face. I forgot that, Suyu, you don't like it when I get too close. But Suyu, I really do care about you. You can choose not to accept my feelings, but the Cheng family has tried to deal with you again and again. This time, they even invited a big shot like Elder Pan. Your heavenly diabolism alone won't be able to deal with them. Bai Jintang smiled at Suyu. I'll say it again. As long as you agree to become my person, I can openly use the Bai family's power to protect them. At that time, I'll naturally ensure the safety of the heavenly diabolism people. As for the Cheng family and Elder Pan, I'll personally talk to them. Suyu, think about it carefully. Your heavenly diabolism might be able to escape this time, but next time, you might not have such an opportunity. Don't you think so? As soon as he said this, Luo Qingtong, who was standing next to Suyu, raised her hand and seduced Suyu, who was as cold as jade, in front of her. She raised her head and kissed Suyu on the cheek. Then she raised her eyes and looked at Bai Jintang. I'm sorry, young Master Bai, but Suyu is already mine. You're too late. Luo Qingtong listened for a long time and finally understood. It was obvious that this young Master Bai was gay and had taken a liking to Suyu. Was he going to force her? Luo Qingtong didn't think it was a coincidence that he came at this time. She had seen the look in the other party's eyes just now. This time, the Cheng family and Elder Pan came to cause trouble. Even if he wasn't the instigator, he definitely had something to do with it. She still wanted to use this to threaten Suyu. Unfortunately, he didn't know that she'd dealt with all the members of the Cheng clan. The one who did it was Elder Pan. Luo Qingtong looked at Bai Jintang indifferently, the smile on her lips indescribably frivolous and evil. You. Bai Jintang's expression finally changed. He looked at them and then looked at Suyu, who was obediently being hugged by Luo Qingtong. He was furious. Never would he have thought that his meticulously planned scheme would be taken advantage of by someone else. What made Bai Jintang even more excited was the fact that Suyu was lying in Luo Qingtong's arms without the slightest bit of struggle or unwillingness. That be *tch. Previously, when facing him, he even pretended to be unable to accept it. But now, it was lying obediently in the man's arms like a dog. Bai Jintang's face was ferocious. However, he quickly adjusted himself. There were so many people here. He couldn't ruin his own image for the other party. Bai Jintang retracted his ferocious expression and then looked up at Luo Qingtong and the others with a sad smile. Is that so? Then congratulations to Su Yu and everyone from Tianxia. As he spoke, he took a step to the side with his fan and opened up a path. Please. Then I thank young Master Bai for his congratulations. Luo Qingtong didn't hesitate to stab him in the heart. Chapter 1205. Su Yu buried her face in her master's bosom. She looked embarrassed, but in fact, her face was twitching helplessly. After not seeing her for so long, her master's domineering temperament had not changed at all. But to be able to solve this problem of Bai Jintang was also good. Su Yu did not know what was going on with the other party. He inexplicably took a fancy to her, and then began to pursue her. The problem was that she was a woman. How could a homosexual like her fall in love with a different gender? Master's move was perfect to prevent future troubles. Thinking like this, she let her master take liberties with her. At this time, Yu Sihuang caught up from behind. Seeing this scene, he suddenly stomped his feet. Tong! Jiao, I also want. Luo Qingtong looked at him and rolled her eyes. I don't like women. She hugged Su Yu and left. Luo Qingtong's words were completely correct. She originally did not like women. Yu Sihuang gritted his teeth and glared behind her, and then chased after her. Tianxia's people also quickly followed. After Luo Qingtong and the others all left, Bai Jintang suddenly raised his head with a cold face. Peng, he crushed the fan in his hand. Slut! His eyes were cold, looking at the direction Su Yu and Luo Qingtong left. This pair of adulterous men. He originally thought that Su Yu was a peerless and pure product, like a distant cold jade that could not be touched. He did not expect that he was a slut that could be casually hooked up with. If he knew that the other party was a kindred spirit, and was just pretending to refuse, why would he waste so much effort? He would have set up a trap to get him. Bai Jintang's eyes were cold. The people around him heard his words, and immediately said to him to curry favor, young master, this Su Yu really does not know how to appreciate favors. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Young master, you treated him well, but he did not appreciate it. Now he turned around and hooked up with someone else. Young master, I think he was just toying with you like a fool. That inconspicuous young man just now, I'm afraid he's already her lover. Young master, I don't think you should think about being gentle and gentlemanly. We might as well tie him up and *ck him. When the time comes, we'll teach them a lesson. How dare they play tricks on you, young master? Bai Jintang's gaze turned even colder as he listened to the person beside him. The anger in his heart grew even more intense. He clenched his hand into a fist and said coldly, go and find out what's going on in the dark-colored arena. How can Tianxia's people be fine? Also, what is the background of that young man? Report back to me after you've found out everything. As he spoke, his expression was extremely ferocious. They better have some sort of power here, otherwise I'll make them wish they were dead. The person he had his eyes on had actually been intercepted halfway. Even if she was a slut, it was still a slap to his face. No matter what, he would not let this matter rest. Bai Jintang's expression was cold. Their Bai family was one of the top families in the wild city of the far west wilderness.
He had come to Fenghua City this time for an important matter, so he had brought many of his family's elites with him. No matter what the other party's background was, the far west wilderness was their territory. Chapter 1206. After Luo Qingtong and Suyu walked far away, she let go of the other person and said, "What's the matter with this Bai Gongzi?" She didn't know that Suyu's charm was so great that even men couldn't escape her men's charm. At this time, should she be glad that Yu Huang, that scourge, was wearing women's clothes? Otherwise, it would be more troublesome. I don't know. Suyu frowned, her face helpless. This Bai Jintang suddenly came to Fenghua City a while ago. He comes from one of the 4 great clans in Wild City, the Bai clan. It said that he came to Fenghua City for some important matter, so he brought many experts from the Bai clan with him. He came here and suddenly said that he fell in love with me at first sight. Saying this, Suyu's face showed a trace of disgust. It wasn't because Bai Jintang, as a man, expressed his love for her in men's clothes, but because he was the Bai clan's young master. Although he looked graceful and elegant, his reputation was very bad. When the other party came to find her, Suyu was afraid that her matter would bring trouble to Tianxia, so she sent a letter to the Black Field to investigate Bai Jintang. The result was that they found many of the other party's dirty secrets. Bai Jintang not only liked men, but because of his identity as the Bai clan's young master, he had a deep taboo. None of the people he fancied had a good ending. If they didn't go missing, they would die very miserably. Suyu didn't have a good impression of the other party. Every time Bai Jintang tried to get close to her, she would bluntly reject him. She also said that she didn't have any interest in being a homosexual. Suyu's words weren't wrong. She was originally a woman in men's clothes, so it would be strange if she was interested in being a homosexual. But she didn't expect that the other party wouldn't give up. But after this time, he should give up. After all, her master had already said that she was her person. This time, the Cheng clan's matter shouldn't be unrelated to the other party. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes, "Be careful, don't go out alone for the next few days." Bai Jintang thought that he hid his emotions very well. However, Luo Qingtong had been hunted down and killed many times. She was very sensitive to the changes in people's hearts and emotions. She did not miss the viciousness in the other party's eyes and the ruthlessness in that instant. Luo Qingtong reminded Suyu that he was likely to make a move in the next few days. "Yes, master. I understand." Suyu nodded. "But he shouldn't have much time left. I heard that there's some movement on their side. It should be that there's some progress on the matter that they came to Fenghua City to do. In addition to what master said to him before, he should have given up." Suyu didn't think that he was some kind of calamity that could bring disaster to the country and its people. He didn't think that he could cause Bai Jintang to disregard everything. Not to mention, she had been eyeing countless men all this while. She was probably just one of the names on his hunting list. Although he wanted to get her, it was insignificant compared to what he had to do. However, in order not to bring trouble to Luo Qingtong, Suyu decided to go out less for a while. "However, master, why did you suddenly come to the far west wilderness this time?" The surprise in Suyu's heart hadn't completely disappeared. Luo Qingtong's appearance was really a surprise to her. "Yes, there's a little matter. It's about the Saint King's tomb." Luo Qingtong revealed the purpose of her trip to the far west wilderness. Everyone here was on the same side. Chapter 1207. The group of people walked towards Heavenly Diabolism's base. On the other side, Bai Jintang had also received the news that his subordinates had gone to investigate. "Eldest young master, it is said that the youth calls himself Yijio. We don't know his background, but that elder Pan seems to be very respectful towards him. Those people from the Cheng family were all killed by him just to curry favor with this Yijio. In addition, the Cheng family's plan to humiliate Suyu was also shattered by this youth called Yijio.
The Bai family's people handed over the information they had gathered. They couldn't help but sigh at the good luck of Su Yu and the others. Originally, their eldest young master had set up a flawless trap. Su Yu and Heavenly Diabolism's people were being made difficult. The Cheng family already had enmity with Su Yu. They also had the Su family's hostage in their hands. Adding on Elder Pan's support, Su Yu and the others would not be able to escape this calamity. At that time, their eldest young master would lead the Bai family's people to make a move. They would pretend to owe the Bai family a favor and persuade Elder Pan to stop. At that time, they would kill the Cheng family's people and save the Su family's people to vent Su Yu's anger. Why would they worry about not being able to win Su Yu's heart? Even if the other party was a man, they would probably be bent because of this kindness and care. They would let their eldest young master do whatever he wanted. Moreover, this Su Yu was said to be loyal and devoted to the master behind Heavenly Diabolism. Their eldest young master saved Heavenly Diabolism's people and saved Heavenly Diabolism from danger. He would definitely be moved to tears. Would they still be afraid that he wouldn't submit to their eldest young master? This subordinate had seen Bai Jintang use this method more than once. There had never been a time when it had failed. But this time, Su Yu had made a mistake. Not only was he intercepted halfway, he was also fiercely slapped in the face. The scene of Su Yu obediently snuggling up to that youth called Yi Jiu would probably make their eldest young master explode with anger. After all, when the other party was facing him, he didn't care about anything. But now, he was so obedient towards this youth. How could their eldest young master not be angry? Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so desperate to find out more about the other party. One had to know that this matter had been ordered by the clan. They had been keeping watch for such a long time, and were about to reel in the net. Young master, don't let this cause you to miss out on important matters. Humph. Yi Jiu. Bai Jintang looked coldly at the news presented by his subordinate. The scene of Su Yu snuggling in Luo Qingtong's arms appeared in his mind. The anger in his heart burned fiercely. It wasn't because she was deeply in love with Su Yu that she couldn't hold back her anger. Instead, it was him who had tried to please the other party, only to be slapped in the face. The latter turned around and threw herself into the arms of an ordinary young man. The other party had neither looks nor family background. So what if the other party was capable of causing Elder Pan to feel fear? He was probably a genius disciple from one of the southern domain's great sects. That Elder Pan was afraid of him, but he wasn't. Thinking of this, Bai Jintang's eyes were filled with malice. But out of caution, he still asked that subordinate, did that Elder Pan say what the other party's background was? If the other party was really not to be trifled with, then even if he was slapped in the face, Bai Jintang would give up on taking revenge on the other party. After all, he still had important family matters to attend to. He couldn't afford to get into too much trouble. Moreover, their Bai family in the far west wilderness wasn't able to cover the sky with one hand. Chapter 1208. Yu Sihuang was still dressed as a woman. Elder Pan would be crazy to say the other's identity. As for Luo Qingtong, he really didn't know her identity. Oh. Bai Jintang sneered. You didn't see anyone secretly protecting that Yi Jiu at the scene? Have you asked the Dark Colors Arena about this? Yes, I did, the subordinate replied. The Dark Colors Arena's people confirmed that there was no one protecting him. But that subordinate said with some hesitation, the Dark Colors Arena's people said that Yi Jiu had already been hired as a guest elder by their deacon. Young master, I'm afraid we can't openly make a move against them in front of others. The Dark Colors Arena's guest elders had the ability to use the Dark Colors Arena's strength. If they made a move against them in front of others, the Dark Colors people would definitely not ignore it. Humph. Who said I'm going to make a move against them in front of others? Bai Jintang sneered. He wasn't that stupid to leave such a big handle for others to catch. Since that Yi Jiu's origin wasn't ordinary, he would naturally act in secret. At that time, he would definitely make the other side cry for the heavens, cry for the earth, but there would be no response. Night. Luo Qingtong was in Su Yu's room. She had just finished asking the other about the situation in the far west wilderness when she suddenly felt a strange aura, suddenly filling the entire room. Her eyes flashed slightly, and in an instant, she popped a pill into Su Yu's mouth, who hadn't discovered anything strange. Then she softly shushed her, and then softly fell back to the ground. Seeing her action, Su Yu instantly understood. Suddenly, with the pill that Luo Qingtong gave her in her mouth, she also closed her eyes and softly fell to the ground. That pill melted in her mouth, there was no need for Su Yu to chew and swallow it. As soon as she closed her eyes, she felt two figures rush in from outside the door. Then, each of them carried her and Luo Qingtong, and rushed out the way they came. Luo Qingtong sensed carefully and found that no one else in heavenly diabolism was hurt. The other party seemed to be targeting her and Su Yu. She immediately understood. These people were also lucky, as Yu Sihuang had received a message from Elder Pan that he had something to do, otherwise, before they could even make a move, their necks would have been broken by the other party and thrown in front of them. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She was not in a hurry. Whoosh! After the two of them left the heavenly diabolism's encampment, there were immediately people in charge of receiving them. Luo Qingtong and Su Yu were placed on the carriage and they quickly left Fenghua City. I didn't expect things to go so smoothly. The two men who kidnapped Luo Qingtong and Su Yu laughed. Young master really didn't miscalculate. Sure enough, there's no one protecting him. That's right. When the time comes, we'll just shift the blame to Elder Pan and this matter will be over. Who told that Elder Pan to be so stupid? When he saw that young master sent people to question the dark colors, he wanted to investigate the matter clearly and tell heavenly diabolism's people. Young master can beat him at his own game and kidnap him. When the time comes, we'll let Elder Pan take the blame. The two men laughed. Luo Qingtong then knew why Yu Sihuang was called out by Elder Pan. Her lips slightly twitched. That Elder Pan was also unlucky. He was inexplicably used by Jin Tang. Chapter 1209. Otherwise, they wouldn't have succeeded today. But this also saved her a lot of trouble. Originally, Luo Qingtong thought that if young Master Bai didn't come to provoke them again, this time's matter would be over. She also didn't have time to dawdle with the other party. But if the other party insisted on finding trouble, then don't blame her for cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Jin Tang wanted to shift the blame to Elder Pan for tonight's matter. That means no one else knew that they were kidnapped. This is very good. Luo Qingtong's lips slightly curled up. After Su Yu ate Luo Qingtong's elixir, she had been awake the whole time. When she heard the words of these two people, she immediately blamed herself. This was another trouble she had caused, and she had even implicated her master to suffer along with her. She wanted to move, but although the elixir given by Luo Qingtong could keep her awake, in order to not let the other party discover any clues, she really couldn't move her body. Luo Qingtong saw her look towards her side and immediately put her index finger to her lips, silently shushing her, telling her not to be anxious and to continue pretending to be unconscious. At this time, the carriage stopped. The two people in front jumped off the carriage, came to the back of the carriage, opened the curtain, and carried Luo Qingtong and Su Yu again, and walked to the front of the manor. It's done. There were specialized people waiting outside to provide support. Looking at the two people carrying Su Yu and Luo Qingtong, that person sneered, and then said, "Send them to young master's room. When young master and the other officials have finished their discussion, then slowly deal with them." Yes. The two people responded, and immediately carried Luo Qingtong and Su Yu inside. The two people were thrown into a room. After they left, Luo Qingtong opened her eyes and looked around. Luo Qingtong's eyes slightly narrowed, looking at the exquisite decorations and furnishings. Sure enough, it was the residence of young Master Bai. The decorations here were very luxurious. It was just a temporary residence, but the decorations were so luxurious. This Bai Jintang really knew how to enjoy life. Luo Qingtong thought, and raised her hand to release Su Yu's body. Master. As soon as the latter's body was released, she immediately opened her mouth impatiently. Let's leave here quickly. Su Yu's heart was anxious. Bai Jintang's strength wasn't weak, and with so many experts of the Bai family here, she was worried about Luo Qingtong's safety. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong nodded at her. She walked to a nearby cabinet and suddenly narrowed her eyes. Then, she raised her hand and suddenly flicked 3 times on a vase placed in the cabinet. 3 flicks of Qingtong, 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 Qingtong. Then, Qingtong 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 Qingtong. Qingtong Qingtong of Qingtong's Qingtong, Qingtong Qingtong, Qingtong S. It revealed a secret passage that was large enough for one person to pass through. A strange smell wafted out from it. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. When she smelled this scent, a sharp glint suddenly appeared in her bloody light. This smell was all too familiar to her. Murderous aura, faintly emitted from Luo Qingtong's body. Her expression was cold as she rushed in through the secret door. Su Yu followed behind her. The 2 of them entered the secret door, and the door closed behind them. After moving forward for a short distance. Chapter 12:10. Bastard. Su Yu looked at the scene in front of her and could not contain the anger in her heart. She saw that at the end of the secret passage was a huge room. There were all kinds of special torture instruments placed inside. There was a man sitting or lying on top of each torture instrument. These people were of different ages, but the only thing they had in common was that they were all very handsome. These people each had their own temperament, but at this moment, these handsome men with different temperaments were all covered with signs of abuse. They were either hanging or kneeling and looked like they were on the verge of death. There were a few people who had completely lost their lives. Quick! Quick, leave! One of them heard the movement and raised his head to look at Luo Qingtong and Su Yu. He tried his best to weakly shake the shackles on his hands and called out to them weakly. Master! Su Yu's eyes were red. She looked at these people and she had seen some of them in Fenghua City. So these people were all men that Bai Jintang had kidnapped and played with after coming to Fenghua City? Not only did he like men, but he also had a special hobby. He even had such a hobby of abuse? Looking at the men who had their eyes gouged out, their hands chopped off, their legs chopped off, and their bodies bound with all kinds of torture instruments, the anger in Su Yu's heart burned fiercely. She thought of herself and her master. If her master was not powerful enough and had made preparations beforehand, would they also have ended up like this after being kidnapped? This Bai Jintang was simply wretched. At the same time, Su Yu was very glad that when Bai Jintang had taken a fancy to her, he did not seem to be prepared to kidnap her. Otherwise, she and the people of Tianxia would not be able to escape the fate of destruction. They would not have been able to wait for her master to arrive. This kind of person was simply too disgusting and too terrifying. Just as Su Yu was raging in her heart, Luo Qingtong's eyes were also very cold. When she had just opened the tunnel, the smell that she smelled was the smell of death and decay. It was a mixture of blood and tears, and it was simply too disgusting. When Luo Qingtong wasn't strong enough in her previous life, she was also locked up in such a place and forced to watch countless tortures and deaths. Those people wanted her ability. They wouldn't do anything to her, but they wanted to use such a method to disgust her and make her submit. Luo Qingtong was deeply disgusted by such things. Once she had the strength, she would immediately destroy that organization. She also let those who participated in the matter of forcing her have a taste of those torturous beggars. Now, this underground passage evoked a very unpleasant memory of this matter in the depths of her heart. At this moment, Luo Qingtong very wanted to kill someone. Bang bang bang. Luo Qingtong's aura burst out, shattering all the torture instruments. Give these to them. If they can live, they can live. If they can't, they can only die. Luo Qingtong handed several bottles of liquid medicine to Suyu. She was not an immortal. Many people here had already been destroyed to the point of certain death. Their internal organs and bones were all destroyed. It was already not bad for them to be able to drag their last breath and live until now. Not to mention those who had their eyes gouged out and their hands and feet chopped off. The most important thing was that many people here had the will to die because of this kind of abuse. Since they didn't want to live, how could Luo Qingtong save them? She also didn't want to waste her effort. Chapter 12:11. Thank you, mistress. Suyu knew that Luo Qingtong took out the elixir because of her pleading earlier. There were indeed a few people she knew here, and they were all the same. She thought that if she wasn't mistress, she might have ended up in the same situation. She might have ended up in an even more miserable state because she was a woman. Suyu's heart couldn't bear it. She rushed into the room with the elixir bottle and fed the elixir into the mouths of those people one by one. At the same time, Luo Qingtong heard the faint sound of footsteps coming from outside. She narrowed her eyes and moved quickly to the back of the secret door. Bai Jintang stepped into the room with his trusted aide behind him. What's going on? Where are they? Bai Jintang frowned when he saw that there was no one around. He turned to look at his trusted aide behind him. The latter did not seem to have expected this. He looked around, then asked the guard outside, and said, "Young master, he's been sent in." It should be those two servants who didn't hear clearly and sent them down. Do you want me to bring them up again? He asked. There's no need. Hearing that they were sent down, a cold smile appeared on Bai Jintang's face. So what if they were sent down? That place was supposed to be their final resting place. Who told that Suyu to not know how to appreciate kindness? Bai Jintang sneered. He originally wanted to pamper that Suyu for a while and wait until he was tired of playing with her before seeing if he could test out his new torture device on her. But he didn't think that the other party would be so shameless. Since she wasn't willing to follow him, then he'll just let those people who were unwilling to submit and were captured by him enjoy the feast he had prepared for them. In fact, if it wasn't for Suyu's appearance and temperament being of the highest quality, he would have already made his move based on the other party's repeated rejection. What had happened during the day had worn away his last bit of patience. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Humph. Knowing that they were in the secret room, Bai Jintang didn't care anymore. He looked at the group of Bai family experts behind him and said, "Let's do as we've just discussed. Immediately bring people to that place overnight and lie in ambush. Wait for that thing to appear. I'll rush over tomorrow." But the group of Bai family experts were very worried and said, "If we're not by your side, what if?" "There's no what if." Bai Jintang waved his hand. "It's only one night, what big thing can happen?" This young master Bai Jintang is only a step away from the martial spirit realm. Moreover, I still have the saint stage protective talisman that my ancestor drew with his own essence blood at great cost. In a small place like Fenghua City, how could anyone possibly injure me? Bai Jintang's gaze was arrogant. You don't say no. That's more importance this. Besides, the family is still waiting for us to return and deal with the Hu clan together. That old bastard that olds. He's guarding that bitch's daughter's thing and won't even let it go. But it doesn't matter. He won't be able to hold on much longer. Bai Jintang sneered. When he's dead, that thing will still fall into our hands. Chapter 12:12. As he said that, Luo Qingtong, who was behind the secret door, narrowed her eyes. Saint Monarch's tomb? How did he know about the Saint Monarch's tomb? And he said it so openly? Furthermore, judging from the breathing of the others, they were also aware of this matter, and there wasn't any shock or emotion that appeared. Then this matter was interesting. Luo Qingtong knew about this because she had the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in her hands and had cracked the secret. Yu Huang and the people from Celestial Palace were the same. Was it the same for the Bai family? But if that was the case, shouldn't Bai Jintang be hiding it? After all, the Saint Monarch's tomb was such a big matter. Since the Bai family wanted to rely on this matter to rise, they should keep it a secret. But at this moment, Luo Qingtong didn't hear the slightest hint of avoidance from his words. In this case, if the people present were not the confidants of the Bai family, then, the matter of the Saint Monarch's tomb had been spread by people for some reason. Luo Qingtong leaned towards the second possibility. After all, there were times when the confidants of the Bai family were unreliable. The Saint Monarch's tomb was such a big matter. Even if the Bai family wanted to tell, they could just choose one or two trusted confidants to tell. There was no need to tell every confidant. The only possibility was that the secret of the Saint Monarch's tomb was no longer a secret, so they didn't avoid it. Then the question was, how did this news leak out? The people who owned the Saint Monarch's tomb couldn't wait to hide this news, but someone actually made it public? And, why did Bai Jintang specifically mention the family who? Was the other party involved with the Saint Monarch's tomb? Luo Qingtong's mind turned one thought after another. She was grateful to Bai Jintang for bringing her here. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known about these things and missed out on a lot of information, Luo Qingtong was thinking when she suddenly heard Bai Jintang say, "Okay, all of you go and get ready." The group of people left. Luo Qingtong heard the sound of Bai Jintang going into the inner hall to change his clothes. She suddenly narrowed her eyes, turned around and went back. The other party needed some time to change his clothes, which was enough for her to make arrangements. Master. In the dark room, seeing Luo Qingtong appear, Suyu quickly greeted her. Behind her was a group of 7 or 8 people. When they saw Luo Qingtong, they immediately knelt on the ground. Master, thank you for saving my life. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily to Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong looked at Suyu. The latter coughed softly and explained to her, "They are all loose cultivators who were captured by Bai Jintang not long ago." The latter didn't have time to torture them. At this point, Suyu's heart was filled with rage. "Mistress, you don't know how disgusting Bai Jintang is, how excessive, those people, so you didn't know how to continue." When she went to rescue them earlier, she realized that the abuse they had suffered was simply outrageous. Many people's lower bodies were rotten. It was a ghastly sight. After being fed medicine by Suyu, they recovered some strength and immediately committed suicide. Bai Jintang, on the other hand, didn't torture the people behind her, because they had only been captured a few days ago. Bai Jintang was still thinking about how to make use of the Cheng clan to set up a trap. He only locked them up and tortured them. Chapter 12-13. As soon as they were released from their restraints, they immediately asked Suyu to recognize Luo Qingtong as their master. They probably knew that although they were saved, it was impossible for them to leave this place alone. If they wanted to live, they could only rely on Luo Qingtong. Suyu didn't dare to agree without permission. She could only let them wait for Luo Qingtong to come back and beg on their own. After hearing Suyu's words, Luo Qingtong nodded slightly. She had turned back to see if any of these people had survived. If there were, she could use them. Since these people were willing to recognize her as their master, it would save her a lot of trouble. Luo Qingtong didn't like to help others for no reason. She had never been a person with excessive sympathy. Her sympathy had long been worn out by the betrayal and use of these people when she was hunted down in her previous life. To Luo Qingtong, there were only two kinds of people in this world who were worthy of her help. One was those who had helped her. The other was her own people. The first kind was a favor that she had to repay. The latter was a responsibility that she had to bear. The others could only pray for their own good fortune. In this world, no one had ever had to help anyone. Luo Qingtong only knew that those who had helped her had flourished for 3 generations. Those who hated her had to go through purgatory. The others had nothing to do with her. Call her cold-blooded or selfish, but she was such a person. She did things her own way, unbridled and unrestrained. She had never been afraid of anyone's words. "All right, since you have recognized me as your master, I will definitely bring you out safely. But now, you have to listen to me first." Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She already had a plan in her heart and needed these people to cooperate. Of course, it was fine if they didn't want to cooperate. Luo Qingtong had other ways. But in that case, for her plan to go smoothly, she could only kill them. So these people's recognition of her as their master was actually saving themselves. "Yes. Master, please give your orders." These lucky survivors of the darkroom purgatory were willing to do anything in order to leave this place. Not to mention that they had already recognized Luo Qingtong as their master. Naturally, they would wholeheartedly obey her orders. For them, only Luo Qingtong could possibly get them out of here. For this, they were willing to pay any price. "Okay." Luo Qingtong nodded, then said to them, "You guys will do this later." She told them about her plan in detail and gave them something. "Remember, do as I say. No matter what happens, there can't be any mistakes. Otherwise, if this fails, I will be able to leave, but you will definitely be left here, to accompany them." Luo Qingtong said, glancing at the people who committed suicide because of the abuse. "Yes. We know. Please rest assured, Master." As they looked at the corpses, the scenes of hell that they had seen in the past few days reappeared in their minds, causing them to firmly remember Luo Qingtong's words. "Okay." Luo Qingtong nodded. At this moment, the sound of the secret door being opened was heard. Luo Qingtong gestured to these people, then lay down on the ground with Suyu. Those people gritted their teeth and returned to where they were originally, on the torture instruments that humiliated them. Chapter 12-14. Bai Jintang appeared in the dark room with a satisfied expression. His gaze swept across the scene in front of him. Suddenly, his gaze fixed on Luo Qingtong and Suyu. "Humph!" he sneered as he looked at their tightly shut eyes. He raised his hand and splashed a ladle of water on their faces. "Master!" Suyu cried out in alarm in her heart. Afraid of disrupting Luo Qingtong's plan, she could only clench her teeth and swallow her words. But in her heart, she had already cut Bai Jintang into 1,000 pieces. This bastard, how dare he treat master like this? To Suyu, this was more infuriating than all kinds of punishment on her. The blood in Luo Qingtong's eyes was also rapidly spinning. She pretended to wake up slowly and raised her hand to wipe the water off her face. But in her heart, she sneered, "This Bai family's eldest young master is really courting death. What to do?" She felt that the ending she had previously imagined for him was somewhat unworthy of his degree of courting death. Suyu and Luo Qingtong pretended to wake up slowly, and the people they saved also pretended to be startled by the sound of water. One person shook the shackles in his hands and cried out in panic at Bai Jintang, "Eldest young master, please spare me, I'm willing to do anything. Please don't torture me like this anymore." As he spoke, he lay on the ground and cried. The others also pretended to be frightened, constantly begging Bai Jintang to spare their lives. Because they had been captured not long ago, Bai Jintang had not touched them even once. He had only ordered people to lock them up here, and then let them watch the miserable state of those who had been abused. He did not suspect their cries and pleas. When Luo Qingtong woke up and saw the miserable state, she seemed to be frightened. Then she grabbed Su Yu and shrank back, shouting sternly, "You! Bai Jintang, why did you capture us here? I'm telling you, I'm not to be trifled with. If you know what's good for you, quickly let me go. Otherwise, you'll have a good time in the future." Luo Qingtong praised her acting skills as she spoke. It had been a long time since she had played a role that was so tough on the outside but weak on the inside. She was really afraid that she wouldn't be able to act like a coward and would be exposed. However, it turned out that she had not forgotten the skills that she had practiced in the past that allowed her to change her face at any time. It was also awesome. Su Yu echoed her, "That's right, Bai Jintang. Do you know who she is? You'll be scared to death if I tell you. Hurry up and release us." Su Yu's acting was a little bad. However, due to the anger in her heart and the fact that most of her words were her true self, Bai Jintang didn't notice anything amiss. "Humph." Bai Jintang looked at the two of them and sneered, "I don't need to know who she is. I only need to know that from now on, there is only one possibility for her, and that is that she is a dead person. That is enough. But you, bitch." Bai Jintang clenched his teeth and looked at Su Yu. "No wonder you fell into his arms so quickly. So it's because you've taken a fancy to the power behind him? But unfortunately, from today onwards, neither of you will be able to walk out of here." The feeling of holding their lives in his hands made Bai Jintang feel very comfortable. In order to better humiliate Luo Qingtong and Su Yu, he raised his hand and released the group of people who were begging him for mercy. "Come and serve me." Chapter 12:15. Everyone pretended to be afraid to disobey and humiliated as they walked over. At that moment, Bai Jintang suddenly kicked one of them. "Crawl over here." Ah! That person clearly didn't suffer much damage, but he acted as if he was out of strength and fell to the side. "Young master." Hearing this sound, the people guarding outside quickly rushed in from outside. The Bai family's experts weren't present, so the other people in charge of guarding the secret passage were very worried about Bai Jintang's safety. Scram! Bai Jintang's mood was disturbed, and he looked at them with dissatisfaction. Then he raised his hand and sent a gust of wind towards them. He thought about how he was going to enjoy himself here. Not only was he going to destroy Su Yu, but he was also going to make Yi Jiu understand what despair was. He immediately said coldly, "All of you, get out. Without my orders, no one is allowed to come in if they hear anything." He didn't have the habit of letting people watch him enjoy himself. Yes. The people guarding outside didn't dare to refute. Bai Jintang looked gentle and refined, but he was actually very violent. Most of the people around him knew this. Their gazes swept across the secret room and saw Luo Qingtong curled up into a ball. She wasn't even as responsible as Su Yu, and their faces filled with disdain. They then looked at the people who were cowering around Bai Jintang. Most of them had already been tortured here, so they couldn't do anything to Bai Jintang. The group of people saw this and immediately retreated with relief. Seeing their backs leave, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. These people's auras were only average. She had sensed the auras of those experts at the secret passage before, so they should have already left. But just in case, it was better to wait a little longer. So Luo Qingtong kept her head buried behind Su Yu and didn't move. Bai Jintang wanted to make trouble for her, but the people around him saw through his intentions. They immediately suppressed the anger and killing intent in their hearts, and kept flattering him and begging for mercy. Bai Jintang's purpose in capturing these people was to enjoy himself. It was just that these people were unwilling to submit, so he used them to torture them. Now that he saw them taking the initiative, his interest was piqued. For the time being, he was too lazy to care about Luo Qingtong. Anyway, the night was long. Sooner or later, he would let the other party know the consequences of offending him. One night was enough for him to torture the other party to death. As Bai Jintang thought of this, he felt an indescribable sense of pride in his heart. He didn't immediately make a move against Luo Qingtong. The group of people circled around him, and their killing intent towards him grew stronger and stronger. At this time, Luo Qingtong estimated that it was about time for the Bai clan's experts to leave this place. Suddenly, he slowly stepped out from behind Su Yu. Seeing Luo Qingtong's actions, Su Yu's angry and helpless expression suddenly disappeared. "Master," she said respectfully. Luo Qingtong casually raised her hand, and pushed the messy hair hanging in front of her forehead to the side. Then she looked at Bai Jintang, who seemed to have sensed something was wrong. His expression suddenly froze, and the corners of her lips hooked up in a wild and unrestrained smile. "Do it." Her aura changed in an instant. Chapter 12:16. In an instant, Luo Qingtong's face and temperament became incomparably evil and enchanting. The murderous aura and coldness emanating from her body made her look like an exquisite and enchanting demonic flower in full bloom. Every glance and smile was filled with an aura that could captivate souls. Absolutely domineering, extremely alluring. Following Luo Qingtong's blossoming smile, even Bai Jintang, who had already sensed that something was wrong, was stunned for a moment. His eyes flashed with an absolutely stunning light. Around him, the faces of the people who had been forcing themselves to smile around him all changed in an instant. Boom! Following Luo Qingtong's voice, the group of people immediately stood according to the positions that Luo Qingtong had told them before. The group of people were very smart. They had already found their positions when they were trying to curry favor with Bai Jintang. At this moment, when Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, they immediately stood still. In an instant, Bai Jintang, who had come back to his senses, found that the space around him seemed to have been isolated. What's going on? Bai Jintang, who hadn't paid any attention to the group of people in front of him from the beginning, suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. He looked carefully and found that the positions of these people were actually a bit tied. Humph! You think you can stop me like this? What a joke! Seeing that the other party wanted to use this method to trap him, Bai Jintang's expression was cold. He looked at Luo Qingtong's face, which was no longer covered up, and her evil and enchanting temperament with amazement. He raised his head and laughed. "I didn't expect you to be even better than Su Yu." He looked up and down at the youth's figure, his eyes full of lust and coldness. "Since you delivered yourself to my door, then I'll play with you properly before sending you to your death." Bai Jintang was already certain that Luo Qingtong was definitely not an ordinary person. This kind of grace and temperament, even the genius disciples of ordinary super forces might not be able to cultivate. She must be a genius among geniuses, the core of the core. Otherwise, she would be a candidate carefully protected by the super experts of those super forces. Since he had offended such a person, he definitely couldn't let her go. Otherwise, there would be no end of trouble. Thinking this, Bai Jintang's lips curled into a cold smile. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of one of the people surrounding him. "Huh? You want to trap me with just these people who can't even stand properly?" Bai Jintang laughed and raised his hand to slap towards that person. That person gritted his teeth and thought of what Luo Qingtong had told them before. No matter what happened, they had to do as she said. There could not be any mistakes. Otherwise, they would have to bear the consequences of failure themselves. And what Luo Qingtong told them was to stand at their positions and not move. If Bai Jintang's attack, Luo Qingtong Tong, Qingtong Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong's a Qingtong, a Luan's or not. That person, seeing that Bai Jintang's palm was getting closer and closer, he suddenly gritted his teeth and closed his eyes. He didn't dodge. He would die if he tried to hide anyway. If he didn't dodge and followed Luo Qingtong's instructions, he might still have a chance to survive. They had already acknowledged the other party as their master. If the other party wanted to deal with Bai Jintang, they would not abandon them. Chapter 12:17. With that thought in mind, the man stood there motionless. Bang! Bai Jintang's palm seemed to carry the force of 1,000 caddies. Originally, he thought that he would be able to blast a huge hole in that person's body and send him flying away. However, when that palm landed on that person's body, it shockingly passed through his body. It was as if it had hit empty air, and it emitted a muffled bang sound. This, Bai Jintang and the man were both stunned. The latter opened his eyes and saw that he was unharmed, then looked at Bai Jintang's shocked expression and laughed. "Huh, Bai Jintang, you've finally met your end." The man finally reacted. The formation they had formed not only trapped Bai Jintang inside, but also prevented him from leaving. At the same time, it also allowed them to hide. In other words, they had formed a space of their own. Unless Bai Jintang could break the formation they had formed, there was no way he could hurt them. Thinking of this, he suddenly laughed out loud, even louder than Bai Jintang's earlier laughter. "Trash! Just wait for your death here." The man looked at Bai Jintang with a cold gaze. The latter's expression finally changed. His gaze swept across the people surrounding him. After a few consecutive palm strikes hit empty air, his expression immediately darkened. "It's you." His gaze shifted to Luo Qingtong beside him. The latter had been watching him put on a monkey show all along. When she saw that he had finally shifted his gaze to her, she immediately walked forward with a smile. "That's right, it's me." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. When she had formed the formation, she had pushed Su Yu out. Now, there were only 2 people in the formation, her and Bai Jintang. "Humph. You're quite capable." Bai Jintang's expression was a little ugly. The other party could temporarily form a formation to trap him, using people he had tortured to the point that they had almost no strength left. Their formation skills were not to be underestimated. Could it be that she was the disciple of some hidden formation master? If that was the case, then he had really caused a big mess this time. He could not let the other party escape from his hands. Fortunately, the other party was only a peak martial emperor. Bai Jintang sneered as he looked at Luo Qingtong's aura. His heart was filled with disdain and ridicule. "You think you can kill me after trapping me with such little strength? You even trapped me in here with you. You're really stupid." Could it be that the other party thought that by trapping him in this array formation, he would not be able to use his strength? Bai Jintang sneered. He immediately waved his sleeve and charged towards Luo Qingtong. "I'll catch you first. Let's see what you can do after we break this formation." With a cold smile, he appeared beside Luo Qingtong with a boom. Bang! Luo Qingtong looked at his attacking figure. The bloody light in her eyes suddenly flashed, and she swept to the side. In an instant, the attack hit nothing but air. Boom boom boom. Bai Jintong's attacks came one after another. He attacked Luo Qingtong violently. Luo Qingtong did not fight him head-on. The bloody light in the girl's eyes flickered. Every time, she dodged the attack at the right time. Inside the formation, waves of air rose one after another. Its power was monstrous. Bang! The range of the formation was limited. After a few attacks, Bai Jintang had suddenly forced Luo Qingtong into a corner. Looking at the seemingly defenseless youth, Bai Jintang laughed complacently. You can't run away this time, right? Come and accompany me obediently." Chapter 12:18. Master. Su Yu, who was outside, immediately became anxious when she saw this scene. However, she had been by Luo Qingtong's side for quite some time. She knew that if Luo Qingtong didn't give any orders, she would definitely be confident. She immediately suppressed her anxious mood and didn't rashly go forward to destroy the human formation formed by those people. The movements in this underground secret room couldn't be hidden from the people outside. At this time, no one had come in to investigate. Firstly, it was because of Bai Jintang's previous orders. Secondly, it was because this human formation had covered most of the sounds and movements. Otherwise, with Bai Jintang's strength, his attacks would be enough to shake this underground secret room. The people outside would definitely be aware of it. Su Yu's heart was anxious, and needless to say, the hearts of those who formed the human formation were even more anxious. They hadn't been by Luo Qingtong's side before, so they didn't know the latter's ability. At this moment, seeing that she was forced into a corner, they suddenly became anxious. They almost couldn't restrain their desire to take action. After all, if Luo Qingtong was really caught by Bai Jintang, then they wouldn't be able to escape. The human formation that they had formed could not trap Bai Jintang without limit. It was all supported by the spiritual weapons Luo Qingtong gave them. Otherwise, with their recently recovered bodies, it would be impossible for them to withstand Bai Jintang's forceful breaking of the formation. Once Luo Qingtong was caught, there would be no one to restrict Bai Jintang's movements. The formation they formed would definitely be broken. The group of people was anxious, but thinking of the words Luo Qingtong said to them before, they didn't dare to act rashly. After all, if they made a mistake and couldn't trap Bai Jintang, then it would really be a mistake with good intentions. Just as everyone's hearts were tormented, Luo Qingtong looked at Bai Jintang's attack and laughed. Idiot! Her figure easily dodged this attack. Obviously, she had been forced into a dead end and there was no way out. But for Luo Qingtong, it was completely useless. She easily passed through the formation and hid herself in another space, just like the people who formed the formation. Then, she came out from behind Bai Jintang. In the blink of an eye, Bai Jintang was the one forced into a dead end. Sword! Luo Qingtong raised her hand. In an instant, a black and white longsword surrounded by light appeared in her hand. The girl held her sword horizontally in front of her chest. It was the standard heaven-conquering art starting stance. Luo Qingtong smiled wickedly at Bai Jintang, who had suddenly turned around, and then suddenly waved her hand. Heaven-conquering art. Seizing heaven's fortune. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, a sword light that seemed to split the heavens and earth appeared before Bai Jintang's eyes. Then, with an aura that made people tremble, it flew towards Bai Jintang. Luo Qingtong's right hand held the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood. The power that had been absorbed from the elder of the celestial palace was suddenly drawn into the sword light. This caused Luo Qingtong's sword to have an extremely terrifying power. This. Bai Jintang looked at the sword light flying towards him, and the disdain and ridicule in his eyes instantly changed. He felt that Luo Qingtong's sword light definitely had the power to kill him. How was this possible? The other party was merely a martial emperor. Chapter 12:19. Bai Jintang couldn't believe what he was seeing. However, the power contained in the sword light was real. Bai Jintang had a feeling that if he didn't dodge this sword light in time, he would definitely die here. And he was now forced into a dead end of the array. The array enveloped the space on his left and right. Unless he immediately broke the array, he would have to face this sword light head-on. Damn it! He cursed under his breath. He originally thought that Luo Qingtong was a person who was too clever for her own good. But he didn't expect that the person who thought herself clever was him. This Yi Jiu definitely did it on purpose, luring him into this dead end. And the powerful battle strength that the other party had displayed made Bai Jintang's heart feel an indescribable chill. This time, he had really kicked an iron plate. He had provoked someone who he shouldn't have. No. He definitely couldn't let the other party leave here alive. Thinking of this, Bai Jintang's eyes revealed a murderous glint. At this time, he didn't care about hiding anything or what he couldn't bear to do. He immediately raised his hand and fiercely tapped his chest. Ancestor's talisman, appear immediately. Bai Jintang immediately used the Ancestor's talisman he had on him. This Sage Realm talisman was directly connected to his heart meridian. Activated by the Bai family's unique secret method, it would immediately release an attack comparable to the power of the Sage Realm. This was drawn by the Sage Realm experts of the Bai family to protect the important members of the family. It was extremely costly and couldn't be used carelessly. As the eldest grandson of the third generation, Bai Jintang naturally had one. But after using it, he could forget about getting a second one for 10 years. If he encountered any danger in the future, he could only rely on himself. Thinking of this, his heart dripped blood, and the gaze he looked at Luo Qingtong with became even more ferocious and evil. This Yijiu, damn it! Buzz! Bai Jintang tapped his finger. In an instant, a blood-red mark appeared in his body, where his heart was. However, before Bai Jintang could rejoice, the blood-red mark that he had driven out floated in mid-air and spun once before falling silent again. How is this possible? Looking at the blood-red mark that had fallen silent again, Bai Jintang was stunned. Before he could activate the mark again, Luo Qingtong's attack arrived with a boom. The sword light viciously slashed his body. In an instant, a blood-curdling scream rang out as Bai Jintang's legs were severed. He was sent flying before crashing heavily into the ground. How is this possible? How is it that my Sage Realm talisman? It's you? It's you? Bai Jintang's expression's face he laid on the ground without any resistance. The muscles on his face twitched as he glared fiercely at Luo Qingtong. She had already looking at her, that's right. You're not that stupid. It's me. Looking at him, she Luo's Ye's eyes looked at the secret door. She had already heard Bai Jintang mention the Sage Realm talisman in his body. How could she give him a chance to use it again? Her repeated dodging just now was not only to lure Bai Jintang into the array's blind spot, but also to secretly destroy the blood-red mark in his body. Others might not be able to do anything to that thing. But for Luo Qingtong, all she had to do was find the line connecting the blood-red mark to Bai Jintang's heart meridian and obstruct it. Chapter 12:20. You. Bai Jintang was just venting his anger. He didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be the culprit. He looked at the youth in front of him with shock and fear. He didn't know how the other party had done it. That was a protective amulet drawn by a Saint Realm cultivator using his own blood essence. How could one destroy it without the same level of power? Not to mention, how did the other party know that he had a Saint Realm protective amulet? Bai Jintang didn't know that Luo Qingtong didn't need to destroy the blood amulet. She only needed to make it unable to absorb the power of his heart meridians. As for the existence of the protective amulet, it was completely revealed by him. However, Luo Qingtong couldn't be bothered to explain this to him. She asked the people who had formed the array to disperse and deactivate it. Then, she raised her hand and fed a pill into Bai Jintang's mouth. You! What did you feed me? Bai Jintang was horrified. He repeatedly vomited, but nothing came out. The pill melted in his mouth. How could he spit it out? Of course it's something good. Luo Qingtong sat on the chair that Suyu had brought for her. She looked at Bai Jintang with an indifferent expression. All right, tell me. What's your purpose in coming to Fenghua City? How did you know about the Saint King's tomb? Also, what's going on with family Hu? You. Bai Jintang's expression changed in horror. He was just about to say that Luo Qingtong could forget about getting any information from him, but he found that his mouth opened uncontrollably and he told her everything. Bai Jintang's eyes bulged. He desperately tried to stop himself from speaking. However, he couldn't do it even if he used all his strength. It was as if this body was no longer his. There was another him reading his thoughts and controlling his speech. Bai Jintong's gaze finally became thorough. He thought of the pill that Luo Qingtong had just fed him. You. Who are you? After he had revealed all his secrets, he finally regained control of his thoughts. His voice was hoarse and difficult as he spoke. Someone. You can't afford to offend. Luo Qingtong looked at him and suddenly smiled evilly. She stood up and kicked Bai Jintang to the people who were looking at him with hatred. I'll leave him to you now. You can do whatever you want with him. There are so many torture tools here, it should be enough for you to enjoy to your heart's content. Luo Qingtong looked at them and said. She never liked to mistreat her own people. Since these people had helped her and recognized her as their master, she would naturally avenge them. She had purposely left Bai Jintang alive so that she could dig out as much information as she could from him. Secondly, it was to avenge these people. They had been tortured by Bai Jintang, so they were most likely very willing to teach Bai Jintang a lesson and let him know what was called hell on earth. Yes. The group of people was very agitated. After kowtowing to Luo Qingtong, they immediately surrounded Bai Jintang with ferocious voices. The latter's cries were mournful and shrill as he continued to cry out in alarm. But the people waiting outside had received his orders and simply turned a deaf ear to these cries. They only sighed in their hearts that their young master was really getting more and more playful. They didn't know what kind of torture those people below had suffered to make them cry out so miserably. Just as they were thinking this, a faintly discernible smell swept over them. Plop plop. The group of people waiting outside fell to the ground one after another. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in the room. She was about to wave her sleeves and spread the smell around the manor. Chapter 12:21. Boom. At the entrance of the holiday villa, an explosive sound suddenly rang out. Who is it? Everyone in the Bai family manor is alarmed. Luo Qingtong senses the aura, then her mouth twitches. Hand over the people you caught. In the dark night, Yu Sihuang is wearing a purple robe, mysterious and charming. His sleeves are fluttering, the tear mole at the corner of his eye, under the moonlight, looks indescribably dark red like blood. It makes the man's face look even more evil. In the darkness of the night, it was as if a soul-sucking demon was haunting it. I'll count to 3, if you don't hand over the people, I'll flatten this place. Yu Sihuang raises his hand to touch the tear mole at the corner of his eye, looking at the people coming out of the villa, his eyes flashing with a cold and violent murderous aura. He received Elder Pan's message and went out, but when he came back, he found no trace of Luo Qingtong and Su Yu. In his rage, he almost wrings Elder Pan's head off. It's this idiot, just passing on a message, and he called him out to take credit. Otherwise, how could Luo Qingtong and Su Yu disappear? Fortunately, Yu Xingqi's fat cat can track, so he found this place in the middle of the night. These Bai family people are really tired of living. Yu Sihuang's eyes are full of killing intent. The people from the Bai family holiday villa were shocked to the core. They look at the man under the moonlight, like a demon. They don't know how they provoked such a strong person. Only Bai Jintong's confidants have a change of expression. Not good. It's the 2 people young master caught before. They didn't expect that just to help Bai Jintang vent his anger, would attract such a strong person. Seeing Yu Sihuang's body overflowing with a terrifying aura, their complexion changed. At this time, a lazy voice faintly rings. Why are you talking so much with them? Just directly kill them all. Luo Qingtong's figure appears in the night. Sensing Yu Sihuang's aura, she directly shows herself. The other party came, it saved her a lot of trouble. Otherwise, those people with higher strength wouldn't be affected by the powder, and she would have to kill them one by one. Luo Qingtong's appearance startles everyone. Yu Sihuang and Yu Xingqi behind him, their eyes lit up. Sister. You're fine. I said you'll be fine. Yu Xingqi hugs the little white cat and jumps in front of Luo Qingtong. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at her with narrowed eyes. Yu Xihuang directly shakes his sleeves. Boom. In an instant, the man was like a demon king descending from the heavens, attacking the people from the Bai family holiday villa. If it's watching people killing people, you then watching Yu Xihuang's people. Yu Xihuang's movements were elegant, his bearing was gorgeous. Walking through the blood-red bodies of those people, there was an indescribable beauty. Bang! When he landed on the ground, no one from the Bai family holiday villa was spared. Master. Su Yu and those people in the underground secret room heard the commotion and came out after dealing with Bai Jintang. The battle outside has already come to an end. Luo Qingtong looks at them, then nods her head. Let's go. Bai family's goal in coming to Fenghua City is still waiting for her to act. Thinking that the Bai family's experts have already gone ahead. Luo Qingtong's lips slightly curl. Chapter 12:22. She directly burned down the Bai family's courtyard and then left with Su Yu and the group of people from the underground secret room. Tong Tong, where are we going? Yu Xihuang's figure appeared beside Luo Qingtong and asked with a smile. With a lazy face, his face was strange and evil. He saw that Luo Qingtong didn't seem to have any intention of returning to the city. Instead, she was heading towards the wilderness north of Fenghua City. His gaze swept across everyone present. Except for Su Yu and Yu Xingqi, the others had suffered heavy injuries before. Although they were healed, because they didn't recuperate, they looked strong on the outside. Where was Luo Qingtong going with this group of people? Moreover, the wilderness woodland at night was extremely dangerous in the far west wilderness. He wasn't afraid. It wasn't impossible to protect a few more people, but staying outside the city for a long time at night. Moreover, looking at Luo Qingtong's appearance, it seemed that she was preparing to go into the wilderness. Yu Xihuang immediately asked. To intercept. Luo Qingtong's lips curved into a smile. She glanced at Yu Xihuang and knew what he was worried about. However, she didn't want to alarm the Bai family this time. Therefore, she didn't want to return to the city to bring more people. With someone helping to take the lead, she only needed to pick up the leftovers. Why should she use her own forces and increase the number of casualties? Luo Qingtong already had a plan when she asked about the Bai family's purpose. Just follow me. With Luo Qingtong's automatic infrared radar, there was no need to be afraid of encountering a group of beasts on the way. As for the smell on everyone's body, Luo Qingtong directly sprinkled a circle of medicinal powder on them. The group of people rushed towards the depths of the wilderness north of Fenghua City. The sky was filled with sand. In the depths of the northern wilderness, the Bai family's people were lying in ambush in the nearby wilderness. Their eyes were fixed on a tall hill in front of them. On top of a towering hill that was nearly 100 meters high, there was a lavender tree towering over it. The lavender tree was about half the height of a person. There was only one fruit on it, and it was suffused with a faint purple color. That purple color was still some distance away from the purple color of the tree trunk. It was clearly fainter. At the very top of the fruit, there was a small piece of white. At this moment, the top of the fruit was slowly turning purple at a speed visible to the naked eye. Clearly, this fruit was about to ripen. Purple jade heart fruit. This fruit was one of the objectives of Bai Jintang and the others when they came to Fenghua City. After Luo Qingtong heard this news from Bai Jintang's mouth, she naturally wouldn't let go of this great opportunity to obtain this fruit. This clear heart purple jade fruit could strengthen Luo Qingtong's spiritual power, and for beasts, it could increase their intelligence. Roar! As the clear heart purple jade fruit was about to ripen, an extremely burly figure suddenly appeared on the barren hill in the distance. An invisible aura of lightning lingered around the figure. The huge beast looked like an ape beast, but it had a body of elegant purple hair that covered its entire body. Lightning Beast. Seeing the appearance of the lightning beast, the Bai family's people who were lying in ambush on the distant hill instantly froze. Chapter 12:23. Sixth Elder, the lightning beast is here. A few people from the Bai family rushed to an old man who was at the peak of the martial spirit realm. The latter was a branch elder of the Bai family. This time, he followed by Jintang to Fenghua City to capture the lightning beast. When he heard the words of the Bai family members who went to lure the beast, he immediately nodded and said, "Okay. Everyone, hold your breath and wait for the lightning beast to come. Don't disturb it." "Yes." The group of people nodded in agreement, and then focused on the scene below. On a hill not far away, Luo Qingtong and the others also held their breath and watched the scene below. It's actually a lightning beast. Looking at the huge figure that appeared in the distance, Yu Sihuang's brows furrowed. The Bai family is really bold. Among the sacred beasts, the lightning beast is known for its violent temper and powerful attack power. Most importantly, it has the bloodline of the berserk beast. Once it goes crazy, its strength increases with the intensity of its bloodline power and the degree of its violence. There are only a few sacred beasts that can be compared to it. This lightning beast has obviously just entered the growth stage and has not gained intelligence yet. But, if they want to kill this lightning beast, why didn't they send a Sage Realm expert? With the lightning beast's strength, it was almost impossible to kill it unless one was a Sage Realm expert. They don't want to kill it, they want to capture it. Luo Qingtong replied casually. When she heard Bai Jintang say this, she was also surprised. Capturing the lightning beast, the Bai family really dared to think. And they seemed to have made clear preparations. Since Luo Qingtong knew this, she naturally would not miss the opportunity. Even if she did not want this lightning beast, it would be good to give it to Su Yu and the others to increase their strength. What? Capture the lightning beast? Yu Sihuang was shocked when he heard this. He seemed to have thought of something and was about to speak. Roar. The lightning beast roared violently at this moment. It looked around anxiously, looking left and right, as if it was very uneasy. It even turned a blind eye to the temptation of the clear heart purple jade fruit in front of it. What's going on? Luo Qingtong looked at the lightning beast's uneasiness and frowned. Cough. At this time, Yu Sihuang who was beside her coughed lightly and said, "It's probably because it sensed my presence." Yu Sihuang's gaze swept over the group of people from the Bai family. No wonder there were no saints among them. The saint realm would cause the thunder beast to sense danger and flee. This thunder beast had clearly just entered the growth stage, so it was more sensitive to danger. Yu Sihuang's strength was above the saint realm. Naturally, it would cause the lightning beast to feel uneasy. In fact, if not for the fact that Luo Qingtong had sprinkled some powder on his body to avoid trouble when she rushed over earlier, this lightning beast had most likely fled as soon as it stepped into the range of his aura. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched when she heard his reason. F***ck, Bai Jintang didn't mention this before. Fortunately, she was cautious. However, Luo Qingtong also knew that although the pill was able to make Bai Jintang reveal everything, but some of the details were not so comprehensive. Fortunately, it was not too late to remedy it. She thought and immediately said to Yu Sihuang, "You leave first." When she made the plan before, she did not include Yu Sihuang in it. "Hey, Bai, we are not being kind, right? You are throwing me away after using me." Yu Sihuang looked at her with an aggrieved face. Chapter 12:24. Roar. The thunder beast suddenly roared, then turned around and walked back, not even caring about the bright purple jade fruit that was about to ripen. It couldn't find the source of the dangerous aura, and it didn't dare to rashly go forward, so it could only leave. Watching the thunder beast leave, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched slightly, and she directly pushed Yu Sihuang out. Then, with a bang, she poured all the powder on his body that could cover his scent, almost burying him in it. "Be quiet, restrain your aura," Luo Qingtong said, and raised her hand to draw an aura-concealing array around Yu Xihuang. After doing this, she suddenly raised her hand and flicked her sleeve. With a swish, a strong wind suddenly shot out from between her two fingers, and in an instant, it swept toward the bright purple jade fruit tree. Puff! There was a slight sound. That formless and traceless gust of wind instantly broke through the array that enveloped the purple jade clear heart fruit tree. Without damaging the array, it opened a hole in the array. In an instant, a faintly discernible fragrance floated out from it. That's right. There was a formation around the purple jade bright heart fruit tree. From Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes, the level of the array was quite high. It seemed to be a Saint Realm array arranged by an array plate. If Luo Qingtong didn't guess wrong, the effect of this Saint Realm array should be to deal with the Thunder Beast, and to prevent the scent of the bright purple jade fruit tree from drifting out. Otherwise, there wouldn't be only one lightning beast appearing here. This proved that the Bai family had been deliberately scheming. For this Thunder Beast, who knows how long they had been waiting here. But now, all of this was going to benefit her. Luo Qingtong's lips slightly curled up. The next second, roar. The Thunder Beast smelled the rich fragrance of the bright purple jade fruit tree, and Yu Xihuang's aura were all covered by Luo Qingtong. In an instant, the figure that was about to turn around and leave turned back once again. Dong dong dong. It ran towards the purple jade clear heart fruit. His size caused the entire ground to tremble. Not good. Originally, when the Bai family saw that the Thunder Beast was about to leave, they were very anxious. However, when they sensed the scent of the purple jade bright heart fruit leaking out, they became even more anxious. The purple jade bright heart fruit was a miraculous fruit that could awaken the intelligence of beasts. If it weren't for the fact that they obtained a Saint Realm formation disc from that Great One and covered it up, that smell would have spread out and this place would have become the territory of a Saint Beast. It was impossible for them to get any closer. Not to mention trapping the Thunder Beast. At this moment, the smell of this clear heart purple jade fruit spread out. Although it was only a trace, if it was smelled by other demonic beasts, they would definitely swarm over. At that time, they could forget about catching the lightning beast. Thinking of this, they were about to go crazy. However, how could Luo Qingtong let this happen? She only opened the flaw of the array for a moment, and let the smell lure the Thunder Beast back. Then, she suddenly pulled back her hand. In an instant, the hole closed. Rumble. Chapter 12:25. The amethyst bright jade fruit was about to ripen. Seeing the purple color at the top of the fruit continue to spread, the Thunder Beast drooled and immediately attacked the shrouding array frantically. Boom boom boom. As for the spirit formation, it was instantly activated and began to frantically counterattack the lightning beasts. Rumble. The array and the Thunder Beast's attacks overlapped. In an instant, the entire area around the amethyst bright jade fruit tree was filled with the sound of collision. The brush moved like dragons and snakes, shooting wildly in all directions. It was terrifying to the extreme. The Thunder Beast broke a corner of the array, and in an instant, the smell of the amethyst bright jade fruit rushed out, causing the Thunder Beast to become even more frantic. The Bai family people watched nervously, but they didn't know that Luo Qingtong's mental strength had already invaded the array at this moment. She instantly took control of the array and began to attack the Thunder Beast. According to the Bai family's estimation, the Thunder Beast would be exhausted if it wanted to break the array. At that time, the energy of the array would be almost exhausted. In this way, the array would explode and use the last bit of energy to seriously injure the Thunder Beast. Then Bai Jintang would rush over at this time and use the ancestral token to deal the final blow to the Thunder Beast. In this way, the Thunder Beast would completely lose the power to resist. However, as they watched, they felt that something was wrong. Wasn't the time spent in this battle a little too short? The offensive power of this formation was much stronger than they had imagined. In less than 2 hours, that lightning beast was actually already covered in wounds all over. And the array still hadn't reached its limit. If this continued, the thunder beast would definitely run away. Sure enough, seeing that there was no hope of breaking the array and that it might even lose its life here, the thunder beast held back no matter how greedy it was. It looked longingly at the clear heart purple jade fruit, then after letting out a wild roar, it began to turn around and run out. Not good. Seeing this scene, the sixth elder became extremely anxious in his heart. Once the thunder beast ran away, it would be impossible for them to lure it back. And because the attack time of the array was too short, they didn't wait for Bai Jintang to arrive. With this kind of mistake, the sixth elder secretly blamed Bai Jintang for being blinded by lust and messing up the important matter. There was no other way. Since they had already reached this point, they definitely could not let the thunder beast escape. Thinking of this, the sixth elder suddenly gritted his teeth and shouted, "Attack! Stop it! We must not let it escape." With his order, the experts of the Bai family who were lying in ambush all rushed out from their hiding. In an instant, the amethyst bright jade fruit was surrounded by experts of the Bai family to the amethyst bright jade fruit. Looking at those martial grandmasters and martial spirits, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up. They're quite a number of experts to Luo. Unfortunately, they all's chooses to die, this time. She's, Luo Luan, to Ludo B.S. of the time, of course, it. As soon as the Bai family's powerhouses rushed out of their hiding place, they charged towards the lightning beast. Roar! The thunder beast had just run out from the array and was still feeling a lingering fear. When it suddenly saw so many experts surrounding it, how could it not know that it had fallen into the human's trap? Chapter 12:26. After the lightning beast was severely injured by the formation, its strength did not decrease much after activating its berserk beast bloodline. It roared and charged toward the sixth elder and the others. In an instant, the sixth elder and the others were like moths that fell into a trap. They were burned by the lightning beast's flames. Countless screams were heard. The experts of the Bai family were directly swept away by the thunder beast, and all of them were torn to pieces. The blood and slaughter stimulated the lightning beast even more, causing its aura to become even more violent. The power of thunder and lightning around it also danced wildly with even more power. Ah! Amidst the screams, the sixth elder quickly stomped his feet and said, "Use the beast-binding rope." The beast-binding rope was prepared to be used when the lightning beast was exhausted. They had no choice but to use it now. Otherwise, the Bai family's experts would all lose their lives. They would not be able to stop the lightning beast from leaving and killing. The group threw out ropes one after another. Roar! When the lightning beast saw the ropes being thrown out, it subconsciously used its claws to block them. However, the moment its paws touched the ropes, it was as if it was electrocuted. Its entire body was in so much pain that it quivered. Sensing that the beast-binding rope was not to be trifled with, the lightning beast immediately restrained its wild nature. It stomped on the ground and was about to leave in a hurry. However, since the Bai family had thrown out the beast-binding rope, how could they let it leave? Immediately, the beast-binding rope was thrown out one after another, crisscrossing in the air. In the blink of an eye, the lightning beast was trapped within. Then, the sixth elder led a group of Bai family's martial spirit realm experts and rushed toward the lightning beast. Attack! Even if we have to pay with our lives, we must make it stay. One attack after another was thrown at the lightning beast. The lightning beast was already injured. Coupled with the beast-binding rope's obstruction and restraint, it was unable to resist the attacks of the Bai family's experts. Although it had killed many Bai family's experts. As the saying goes, many ants can bite an elephant to death. Under the Bai family's relentless attacks, the lightning beast finally fell with a wail under the effect of the beast binding rope that was getting tighter and tighter. Its body was tightly bound. Looking at the bound thunder beast, the sixth elder and the others wiped off their sweat. More than half of the people they had brought with them had died. Only less than half of them were barely holding on. If they still could not catch the lightning beast, then it would really be over. The losses this time were too great. There were less than 100 people left, and most of them were martial spirits. Not only that, they were all heavily injured. The sixth elder covered his wound and said angrily, "Eldest young master has gone too far this time. When I return to my family, I will definitely report this matter to my superiors." The anger in the sixth elder's heart could not be extinguished. If not for Bai Jintang delaying his arrival this time, their losses would not be so great. Now that there were so few of them left, and all of them were injured, they didn't know how to explain it to their families when they returned. He was absolutely not willing to be the scapegoat. He cursed angrily, then raised his head and drank a bottle of medicinal liquid. After trying his best to calm the aura in his body, he immediately walked towards the purple jade heart fruit tree. The purple jade bright heart fruit had long since ripened. Chapter 12:27. Although it was a little strange that the thunder beast had broken a corner of the array, why hadn't the smell completely leaked out? But the sixth elder didn't think too much about it. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't imagine that someone could easily control this sage realm array. He raised his hand to pick the amethyst bright jade fruit. The smell of the fruit had already leaked out. Although it was only a trace, it was still better to leave this place. This amethyst bright jade fruit was also promised to that lord that he must take it back. Just as the sixth elder reached out to pick the amethyst bright jade fruit, boom! The formation, which had been dormant, was suddenly activated. Not only that, but a figure suddenly appeared beside the sixth elder and raised her hand to pick the amethyst bright jade fruit one step faster than him. Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a smile. She glanced at the sixth elder who was shocked by her appearance and raised her hand to pick the amethyst bright jade fruit. "Sorry, this fruit is mine." As Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, the array suddenly blasted towards the sixth elder. When the sixth elder saw her appear, he was going to slap her and stop her. But he didn't expect that the array suddenly activated and blocked his attack. "You!" Seeing Luo Qingtong pick the amethyst bright jade fruit in her hand, the sixth elder's face was both surprised and furious. Where did this young man come from? How could he control the array here? He even snatched the amethyst bright jade fruit that he was about to get. "Bastard! Who are you? How dare you snatch our amethyst bright jade fruit? Don't you know that we're from the Bai family?" He was flustered and exasperated. Suddenly, he saw Luo Qingtong's figure rush out of the array, and then his face suddenly changed. Not good. He hurriedly rushed out of the array. Boom! The array exploded in an instant. The aftermath was enough to seriously injure the thunder beast, and instantly killed a group of Bai family experts who saw the commotion here and rushed over to help. Seeing another group of people die on his side, the sixth elder's face became even more flustered and exasperated. "Bastard! Who the hell are you?" He just said that when he saw Su Yu and the others rush out from the side. "Who I am, you can only go to hell to ask." Luo Qingtong looked at them with a chuckle, and then played with the amethyst bright jade fruit in her hand, and then put it into her waist ring. "It's you." The sixth elder didn't know Luo Qingtong, but he knew Su Yu and the others who were captured by Bai Jintang a few days ago. Seeing them appear, his expression changed slightly. "Where is the young master? What do you think? Very soon, you will be meeting them." Luo Qingtong looked at him with a smile. "Humph. Shameless boasting." The sixth elder sneered coldly, and didn't take Luo Qingtong's words seriously at all. His eyes swept over Su Yu and the others, and the sneer on his face deepened. With just the few of you? Do you think you can deal with us? I alone can kill you with one hand. The sixth elder's heart was full of disdain. Even if he was injured in the attack with the thunder beast, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill this group of people in front of him. He actually dared to boast shamelessly about wanting to kill him. Chapter 12:28. From the sixth elder's point of view, Luo Qingtong's words were just to trick him. Eldest young master must have been trapped by them using some small tricks, so he couldn't make it in time. Humph. There was a knife above the character of lust. Sooner or later, the young master would suffer a great loss because of this. But he didn't know that his words had already come true. Bai Jintang not only suffered a big loss, but he was already dead. You want to deal with us? You're overestimating yourself. For the sake of our young master's favor, hand over the clear heart purple jade fruit and obediently let us capture you. I will only cripple your cultivation and spare your cheap lives. The sixth elder raised his head and said. Is that so? Unfortunately, I am not willing to spare your lives. Luo Qingtong looked at him and raised her eyebrows. Not far away, in the hill where they were previously hiding, Yu Sihuang raised his head from a pile of medicinal powder with a spitting face, and then rushed over to them. Luo Qingtong looked at his figure, the smile on her lips deepened. Kill them all, don't leave a single one alive. I will help you get rid of the powder on your body. Luo Qingtong looked at Yu Sihuang's face, as if he just crawled out from a pile of flour. She couldn't help but laugh. Okay. This is what you said. Yu Sihuang really couldn't stand the thick powder on his body. Unfortunately, Luo Qingtong's powder stuck to his body and couldn't be shaken off. Yu Sihuang's face turned green. He just wanted to quickly deal with these Bai family members in front of him, and then quickly get rid of the powder on his body. Hearing her words, the sixth elder was first angry, then he laughed. Deliberately mystifying. Previously, you used the young master's death to trick me. Now, I don't know where this fool came from, but you still want to continue to trick me? It's a pity that, in the face of absolute power, your little tricks are just little tricks. I am not the young master, I will not give you the opportunity to take advantage of me. Just wait for your death. The sixth elder said, looking at Luo Qingtong and the others with eyes full of mockery. He raised his hand and sent a palm towards Yu Sihuang. From his point of view, this person who seemed to be wrapped in flour from head to toe was no different from a clown. How could such a person be a powerhouse? What kind of expert would put himself in such a sorry state? Furthermore, he had to obey the orders of a martial emperor. The sixth elder had a disdainful look on his face. Luo Qingtong, Su Yu, and the others looked at him silently. In this day and age, there were always people who felt that they weren't courting death enough and desperately added scenes for themselves. What else could they say? As for Yu Sihuang, when he heard the sixth elder's words, his face turned green. An idiot? Accept death? Very good. Yu Sihuang was the imperial sect master, so there were not many people who dared to scold him like this. He looked at the sixth elder and smiled. His smile was especially cold and murderous. How should he kill this sixth elder? Yu Sihuang looked at the attack coming towards him and raised his hand with a bang. In an instant, the sixth elder was sent flying along with his attack. At the moment when he was sent flying, the sixth elder's face was still very stunned. His eyes still maintained deep mockery and malevolence, but in the next second, he was sent flying while vomiting blood. Blood splattered all the way. Chapter 12:29. Yu Sihuang coldly flicked his sleeves and looked at him. Obviously, he still had that funny look on his face, but the sixth elder couldn't laugh anymore. Seeing this, the Bai family members behind him hurriedly rushed over. Sixth elder. Their hearts were overwhelmed with shock. Before they could react, an extremely strong aura instantly enveloped them, shrouding them all under the aura of a Saint Realm expert. Beat him. Whoever hits him the most, I'll give him a quick death. Otherwise. Yu Sihuang said as he waved his hand. In an instant, one of the Bai family's experts was turned into a pile of bones. During this process, his mournful screams didn't stop. After a long time, he finally breathed his last. Looking at this scene, the Bai clan experts felt a chill run down their spines. They looked at the sixth elder. The latter's face was already pale with fear. He looked at the eyes that were looking at him, and he constantly shrank back and retreated. No. The sixth elder's heart was filled with remorse. He would never have thought that the person he casually mocked was actually such a valiant expert. Yu Sihuang raised his hands and feet and beat him until he was half dead and half alive. The sixth elder's heart was filled with despair. Sixth elder, I'm sorry. A Bai family expert gritted his teeth and said. The screams of white bones seemed to still linger in his ears. He couldn't bear to die in such a miserable way. As the expert spoke, he immediately pounced on the sixth elder. Seeing this, the others also rushed up. No. Ah. The sixth elder's scream was mournful, but soon, his scream was drowned out by the sound of punches and kicks. Bang bang bang. While Yu Sihuang was dealing with the sixth elder and the Bai family experts, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in front of the thunder beast. Roar. The thunder beast was tied up by the beast binding rope and was almost dying. Feeling Luo Qingtong approaching, it immediately struggled and let out a violent roar at her. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and looked at it, then asked, submit, or die. She released her aura, bringing with it a strong murderous aura. Luo Qingtong's aura didn't have the slightest mercy. If the thunder beast was unwilling, Luo Qingtong would immediately kill it. For Luo Qingtong, although a saint beast was powerful, she had already seen the power of a divine beast. She didn't feel that she needed to be patient with it. It was just a saint beast, if it didn't submit, then kill it. Luo Qingtong's indifferent face. Sensing her nonchalant attitude, the lightning beast hesitated. Luo Qingtong was completely different from the humans it had interacted with before. The other party didn't seem to care about its life or death or whether it submitted or not. It seemed to be just a casual question. If it's not, it's death. This wasn't a threat, but a fact. This made the thunder beast a little scared. Beasts weren't fools. On the contrary, some beasts were smarter than humans. They knew how to seek fortune and avoid calamity. They bullied the weak and feared the strong. Seeing Luo Qingtong's attitude was clear and firm, the thunder beast became weak. Roar. It let out a low roar, which could be considered as a compromise. After all, in this situation, it could neither escape nor fight, so it had no choice but to submit. Or wait for death. Other thunder beasts might think that they couldn't kill it in one move. They could let it toss around, throw a tantrum, and serve it like an ancestor. Chapter 1230. Luo Qingtong looked at it coldly. The thunder beast instantly let out a low cry and lowered its head to show its submission. When Luo Qingtong saw it submit, she immediately called Suyu over. Stand still. As she spoke, she pointed at Suyu's head. Luo Qingtong didn't know how other people formed a contract with a demonic beast. She recalled the scene when she and Little Pig formed a contract. Then, she drew the inverted six-pointed star array that appeared on her and Little Pig's bodies. If other people drew this array, they would only have the form but not the spirit. However, Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes were different. Her hands were drawing on Suyu and the lightning beast's foreheads at the same time. Buzz. As the lines took shape, a faintly discernible fluctuation of heaven and earth drifted around Suyu and the lightning beast. A strange feeling inexplicably formed in the hearts of the human and beast. Roar! The lightning beast widened its eyes in shock. It was dumbstruck as it looked at Luo Qingtong's actions. Heaven and earth contract. This human was actually drawing a heaven and earth contract that only ancient mythological beasts could form. This, as a beast, no one understood the benefits of a heaven and earth contract better than the lightning beast. This was borrowing the power of the heavens to form a contract with a human. A contract like this would ignore the difference in level between the human and beast. Both parties were equal. Most importantly, this heaven and earth contract could allow a beast to borrow the power of a human and break through the upper limit of its strength. After all, ancient mythological beasts were already powerful enough. Why would they need to form a contract with a human? The first type was that they had no choice but to do so. They needed to borrow the power of a human to break free. The second type was that due to the limitations of the beast's race and bloodline, there was a limit to the growth of their strength. However, humans didn't. By borrowing the potential of a human, they could continue to break through the upper limit of their strength and raise the level of their race's bloodline. They could raise their strength to a level that surpassed the upper limit of their race's strength. Of course, that was if the human was strong enough. In short, the benefits of the heaven and earth contract were indescribable. The most important thing was that through this contract, as long as Suyu was powerful enough in the future, it was completely possible for the Thunder Beast to surpass the level of a Saint Beast. How could this Lightning Beast not be excited and shocked by such benefits? If it had known that this human wanted it to submit to him by signing a contract like this, it would have cried and screamed to hug his thigh. There was no need to tie him up. It would never stand if it was told to lie down, and it would never sit if it was told to lie down. The lightning beast was overjoyed, and it couldn't help but cry out. In an instant, the sound reverberated in all directions. Yu Sihuang, who was cleaning up the Bai family, glanced over, and his gaze immediately changed. Beast-taming seal? No, that's not right. If it was an ordinary beast-taming seal, the lightning beast would have already cried out in pain. The beast-taming seal was used to take away the control of the thunder beast's mind and connect it with the target's mind, thus achieving the purpose of controlling the demonic beast. The level of the selected demonic beast should not be higher than the demonic beast that was sealed. Otherwise, the demonic beast might suffer a backlash. Luo Qingtong was obviously helping Suyu form a contract with the lightning beast. This lightning beast's strength was at the peak of the martial spirit realm. When it went berserk, its true battle strength was comparable to a Saint realm expert. As for Suyu, Yu Sihuang glanced at Suyu. The latter's strength was obviously not at the martial emperor realm. Under such circumstances, how could both sides form a contract? But unfortunately, this impossible phenomenon happened right in front of Yu Sihuang. This meant that Luo Qingtong's body definitely contained an extremely powerful force that was comparable to the heavenly energy. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have been able to use this heaven and earth contract. No matter how much power he had, it would not work. Oh. Luo Qingtong softly replied. So this was what Little Pig wanted to say. Of course, she knew that there was a strange force in her body. Otherwise, how could she repair and heal the damage to Yi Qianxian's meridians caused by the heavenly energy? But that was it. That force was not under her control, and it couldn't even make her stronger. What was the difference between having it and not having it? Chapter 1232. Luo Qingtong knew a long time ago that her eye ability was different from ordinary people. In her previous life, there were many people like Luo Qingtong who had awakened an eye ability in the ancient martial arts world. However, there were none like Luo Qingtong who had such a powerful and comprehensive eye ability. If the world of eye ability was a kingdom, then Luo Qingtong's blood eyes were the absolute king. Those who had awakened an eye ability mostly had a single function. They only had hypnosis and illusions. Their ranking in the ancient martial arts world wasn't high, and almost all of them depended on other people. Only Luo Qingtong stood proudly above all the ancient martial arts ability users. She alone obtained the title of supremacy. Luo Qingtong was the first person to obtain the title of supremacy with a non-combat ability. Her ability was coveted by everyone. Luo Qingtong originally thought that her eye ability had reached its peak in her previous life. But now, after coming to this alternate world, Luo Qingtong realized that there might be room for improvement in her ocular special ability. However, she would only know all of this after her own strength had increased. Otherwise, everything would just be a fantasy. Luo Qingtong thought so. She raised her hand and flicked the tip of Little Pig's nose, then put it back into her bosom. Yu Sihuang and Yu Xingqi came to her side. Tong Tong. Sister. Behind the two of them followed the group of people that Luo Qingtong had rescued from the underground dark room. The group of people looked at Luo Qingtong with reverence. Then, they looked at Suyu, who was so happy that she couldn't even speak. Their eyes were filled with envy. Master was really too powerful. Everyone didn't know who Luo Qingtong was. She could actually help people form a contract with a demon beast. Moreover, it was a holy beast. Mas. Master. Suyu was incoherent. In her bosom was Lightning Beast, who had shrunk to the size of a normal pet after the heaven and earth contract was formed. The latter had a body of light purple fur, and a pair of big round eyes that took up almost 2/3 of its small face. Just as she was trying to please Luo Qingtong, she cried out and looked at her. Although its master was Suyu, this lightning beast could clearly see that between Suyu and Luo Qingtong, the one who made the decision was completely Luo Qingtong. Moreover, she could help it sign a heaven and earth contract with its master. Lightning Beast didn't expect that it could pick up a pie that fell from the sky. Lightning Beast looked at Luo Qingtong with gratitude. After all, it had an extremely high IQ. When the Bai family captured it, it could already guess what its fate would be. To be able to sign such a heaven and earth contract that all demonic beasts yearned for was truly the greatest fortune of its life. Chapter 1233. She shook her head with an indifferent expression. Nope. Little Pig and Snowball in Luo Qingtong's body were contracted by her. The reason why she could help Suyu to form a contract was because of the effect of the heaven and earth contract. It had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. However, in Luo Qingtong's previous life in the ancient martial ability world, she had met several ability users who could communicate with and control beasts. However, their ability was clearly different from those who could form a contract with demon beasts. Not a beast tamer? Yu Sihuang looked deeply at Luo Qingtong. Not a beast tamer, but she could help others form a contract with a demon beast. Moreover, it was such a powerful lightning beast. Not only that, this lightning beast was much stronger than Suyu. Yu Sihuang looked at Luo Qingtong, his gaze swept through the surrounding people, and suddenly raised his hand. Boom! An attack suddenly blasted towards those people who were rescued by Luo Qingtong from the underground secret room. Master! Seeing the sudden attack, the group of people's complexion turned pale. Suyu suddenly flashed and appeared beside Luo Qingtong. She shielded Luo Qingtong behind her and looked at Yu Sihuang, who suddenly made a move with vigilance and alertness. The lightning beast in her hand instantly returned to its original size, and angrily roared at Yu Sihuang. Form a human formation. Luo Qingtong said to the group of people. The latter quickly formed the human formation that they used to deal with by Jin Tang. In an instant, Yu Sihuang's attack fell on the human formation that they had just formed. With a boom, more than half of the attack was penetrated, and the remaining attack fell on the human formation, instantly breaking the formation and sending them flying. The group of people vomited blood and fell to the ground, but at least they managed to keep their lives. What are you doing? Luo Qingtong stopped Su Yu and Lightning Beast, who were about to make a move, and looked at Yu Sihuang with knitted eyebrows. Why did this person make a move without saying anything? Did he take the wrong medicine? If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't feel Yu Sihuang's killing intent towards her, she would have thought that Yu Sihuang's actions towards these people were directed towards her. They can't stay. Yu Sihuang stared at Luo Qingtong and said word by word. Your ability cannot be revealed. Tong Tong, you probably don't know, but in the entire True Spill continent, there is only one place in the hidden world that has the secret inheritance of beast-taming techniques. That's the Beast-Taming King Valley. The people there are called beast-tamers. They can contract demonic beasts and tame them themselves, and they can also help others contract and tame demonic beasts. The people of the Beast-Taming King's Valley are extremely domineering and unbridled in the hidden world. If they know that you're not a beast-tamer, but you can help people contract and tame demonic beasts, they will definitely find trouble with you at all costs. To the people of Beast-Taming King's Valley, beast-taming was the most important method for them to stand at the top of the hidden world. Now, Luo Qingtong was clearly not someone from their side, and yet she could help people contract and tame demonic beasts. This had clearly crossed their bottom line. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong could help others contract demonic beasts, and the strength of these demonic beasts was above the contractors. This was even more coveted. This was because in Beast-Taming King's Valley, besides the Valley Master and several others, it was impossible for anyone else to accomplish this. Therefore, Luo Qingtong's ability could not be revealed. Otherwise, there would be no end of troubles. Chapter 1234. They were the only ones here who were most likely to leak the fact that Luo Qingtong could help others contract demon beasts. Hearing his words, the group of people who vomited blood on the ground instantly turned pale. They couldn't refute Yu Sihuang's words. Killing them was indeed the fastest and best way to keep the secret. Although they swore an oath to be loyal to Luo Qingtong, but this kind of thing, who could say for sure? Without the test of time, no one knew if there would be someone among them who would reveal Luo Qingtong's secret even if they didn't want their lives. The group of people's faces were filled with despair, covering their wounds without uttering a word. Luo Qingtong looked at them indifferently, then said, "It's okay, they won't betray me." Luo Qingtong would never punish her people because of groundless accusations. What's more, how could it be easy to betray her after becoming her people? Luo Qingtong was hunted down many times in her previous life. She didn't know how many people wanted to betray her, but no one succeeded. Luo Qingtong naturally had a way to make them unable to reveal her secret. Before these people really betrayed her, Luo Qingtong would protect them. This was her promise to her people. Don't mention this matter again, they are my people, don't touch them. Luo Qingtong's words made those people who were lying on the ground cry tears of joy. Master, don't worry, even if we are cut into pieces, we will never reveal Master's secret. They swore to the heavens. Luo Qingtong softly said, "Get up." She casually threw a few bottles of healing liquid to them, then looked at Yu Sihuang who was next to her. The latter frowned, he didn't agree with Luo Qingtong's words. But since the other side said so, he could only give up. He looked at Luo Qingtong with resentment and said, being your person is really fortunate. Do you want to take me in as well? Along with the Imperial Sect and the entire southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands, it's definitely a profitable deal. His eyes were full of resentment. This person was so good to his subordinates, give him some. He was very willing to be her person. Especially his wife. Okay. Luo Qingtong looked at him, smiling evilly. You swear to the heavens and earth, swear allegiance to me, recognize me as your master. I promise to treat you better than them. As she spoke, she raised her hand and patted Yu Sihuang's handsome face that was completely covered by a thick layer of powder. Then she directly removed the powder from his body. After the powder was removed, Yu Sihuang revealed his devilishly handsome face. He looked at Luo Qingtong bitterly. You know I'm not talking about that one. What he wanted was the kind of wife who would accept him. Then there's none, Luo Qingtong said slowly. I don't accept people other than servants. Okay, let's go. Luo Qingtong looked at the group of people she rescued from the underground secret room. They had finished adjusting their breathing, so she immediately turned around. Yes. Su Yu and the others replied in unison, and immediately followed her. Ai. Tong Tong, wait for me. What about Yi Qianxian? Yu Sihuang caught up with Luo Qingtong and asked. If the other side wasn't Luo Qingtong's people, then didn't that mean he still had a chance? Yu Sihuang secretly calculated in his heart. Luo Qingtong looked at him, and suddenly smiled. Chapter 1235. Of course it's an exception. The man she likes is naturally different from others. Yu Sihuang's face is gloomy. Why? I don't look worse than him. Yes, you don't look worse than him. Yu Sihuang is indeed the only person Luo Qingtong has seen who can compete with Yi Qianxian in terms of appearance. Yu Sihuang, why does it sound like a compliment, but why does he feel inexplicably stifled when he hears it? Is she saying that he can't compare to Yi Qianxian in other aspects? But Yu Sihuang has no way to refute it. Yi Qianxian is indeed stronger than him. But that's because his heart disease hasn't recovered, so his strength is affected. He will definitely surpass him in the future. Somewhere in the outer region. Yi Qianxian stands in the depths of the starry sky with his hands behind his back. He raises his hand and gently caresses the Shifang dragon ring in his hand. I don't know what will happen to that woman. Did anyone bully her in the far west wilderness? Yi Qianxian inexplicably regrets that he was too lax in the past. In the far west wilderness, he didn't build a black field city. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong wouldn't be so helpless in the far west wilderness. But this time Luo Qingtong is going to the far west wilderness for the Sage King's tomb. It's an excellent experience for her. If he sends too many people around her, it will attract too much attention. It's not a good thing for her. The best way is to solve the matter here as soon as possible and then rush to her side. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian suddenly slightly squints his eyes. At this moment, Bei Qing's voice comes from the front. Master. As this voice rang out, Yi Qianming suddenly pulled back his hands, flicked his sleeves, and looked forward. Bei Qing and Feng Yu appear in front of him. The two kneel and report, Master, we found the heavenly demon fox's location. However, there are also people from the Star Alliance over there. They obviously have the same goal as us. Mistress. Feng Yu frowned, should we send some men over from Tiandu? Or other realms? No need. Yi Qianxian's voice was cold. There's no need to complicate matters. He had just suppressed the voices of the people from Tiandu. If they knew that he wanted to prolong his life, he was afraid that they would not be able to suppress him. Yi Qianxian didn't care about their ruckus, but Luo Qingtong's blunder had happened before. If these people couldn't be suppressed, then when they went to the true Spill continent, they would inevitably attract trouble from Luo Qingtong. Yi Qianxian didn't want the girl to be threatened or wronged. Let's go, he said in a deep voice. His figure disappeared on the spot. Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked at each other worriedly before they hurriedly followed him. While Yi Qianxian was heading towards the location of the heavenly demon fox, Luo Qingtong and the others had also arrived at the number 1 city of the western wilderness, Wild City. This is Wild City? Luo Qingtong looked at the huge city wall in front of her. The shape of the city wall was rough and full of power, which corresponded with the word wilderness. At the same time, standing in the endless wilderness of the far west wilderness, it was also incomparably shocking. This wild city looked like 4 or 5 times the size of the holy capital of the Empire of Qin. In 4 directions, except for the gate near the eastern wilderness. The other 3 directions were the widest, richest, and most dangerous areas of the far west wasteland. Because of this, Wild City was called the #1 city of the western wilderness. Chapter 1236. Rumble. When Luo Qingtong and the others got close to Savage City, suddenly, a deafening sound came from behind them. Luo Qingtong and the others turned around and saw a group of people galloping towards them from not far behind them. "Move aside! Move aside! Everyone move aside!" That group of people were all riding iron-horned rhinoceroses. It was a kind of mount unique to the western wilderness. It had a gentle temperament and a ferocious appearance. It looked very ferocious and mighty. At the same time, its fur was as white as snow. It was very popular among the pioneers in the western wilderness. However, this kind of iron-horned rhinoceroses was very difficult to catch. The price to buy it was also very expensive. Ordinary pioneers in the western wilderness would not be able to get such a mount. In fact, some of the smaller cities outside of Wildland City didn't even have such mounts. At this moment, Luo Qingtong and the others saw that the group of people were all riding iron-horned rhinoceroses. And these people were all young men and women who were not more than 15 or 16 years old. It was very obvious that these people were the children of big families in Savage City. Luo Qingtong looked at this group of people rushing towards them. Their actions were unruly, and they were shouting loudly for people to move aside. She immediately twisted her eyebrows. However, she was too lazy to argue with such people. She pulled Su Yu and the others to the side. Yu Sihuang was wearing a veil hat on his head. When Luo Qingtong pulled his sleeve, his originally unhappy mood became happy. He was too lazy to pay attention to these children of influential families in Savage City who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. A group of people stood outside the city gate, waiting for the group of people to pass by. At this moment, a voice floated over from the opposite side. "AI, these people have been coming here every day. They really don't care about people's lives. That's right. This family Hu boy also has a hard life. Although he is the product of family whose second miss who lost her virginity before marriage, but in any case, he is still the blood of family Hu. And what happened that year, everyone knows that it was not the second miss's fault. These people from the Hu clan are really insulting the other party. That's right. No one knew how he managed to pass through the dangerous western wastelands to reach Savage City. Sigh. How pitiful. In the end, the family Hu people treated him like that. You're just bullying him because he's a fool. Yes. It's also because family whose head is seriously ill and doesn't care about anything, and family whose eldest young master has been paralyzed and unconscious in bed ever since that incident. Otherwise, how could family Hu be in this state? Yes. Sigh, if the second elder of the side branch wants to seize power, how could he allow a male from the main branch to stand in front of him? Even if he was an idiot, it would not do. Isn't he trying to torment that kid from family Hu? He even pushed him out to be the object of amusement for the other aristocratic families. This brat is really lucky. I don't know if fortune favors fools, but I can't die no matter how hard I try. Shoo. Stop talking, those people are coming. Hearing the whispers from all around, Luo Qingtong's brows immediately furrowed. Was she imagining things? Why did she feel that the person these people were talking about was very familiar? Family Hu, an idiot? Did they find him outside? Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed. At this moment, the group of people had already rushed to the city gate. Chapter 1237. Behind that group of people, there was a person tied up and dragged along. That person's 4 limbs were bound by chains as thick as a child's arm. His entire body was tied up tightly, and he was dragged along by that group of people on their iron-horned rhinoceroses. Seeing this scene, many people in the surroundings cried out in alarm. With such strength and speed, this person's body was obviously not protected by any aura. This person would be dragged to death. Who would have thought that this group of people was running so wildly to make way for the person behind them? Many people who had just heard the whispers in the surroundings finally understood what they were talking about. These children of the aristocratic families in Wildland City really did not take human lives seriously. Moreover, listening to the words of the people nearby, the person being dragged could be considered a member of the family who. The other party was just going to let him be trampled on like this? While everyone was astonished and crying out in alarm, Luo Qingtong was furious in her heart. Not for anything else, but because the person being dragged by that group of people was none other than Chu Lingfeng. Why was this big blockhead here? And he was being dragged along like this? Luo Qingtong looked at the scene in front of her, and a burst of anger erupted in her heart. At this moment, a burst of laughter suddenly came from that group of people. Ha! Hu Yenner, Hu Bang, you 2 siblings are really good. Bringing such a thick-skinned blockhead to play with us is really too enjoyable. Yes. Ha! Look at that blockhead, his life is really as cheap as a dog's. No matter how we play, he won't die. I think we should change the game tomorrow. We'll cover the ground with gravel, clamp a blade, and play again. Those young men and women laughed wantonly, and the words in their words made people tremble from the bottom of their hearts. They were really too vicious, and did not take human lives seriously at all. Everyone cast sympathetic glances at the person who was being dragged. Su Yu and the others also looked over. The people from the Luo family's Iron Army did not have much of a reaction. They had never seen Chu Lingfeng before, and naturally did not know who he was. Seeing this scene, he only felt sympathy in his heart. Su Yu immediately recognized Chu Lingfeng. Master! She covered her mouth and exclaimed softly, looking at Luo Qingtong. The latter took a step forward with a cold expression and stood in front of the group of people. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong's cold voice pierced through the laughter of those people and resounded in Chu Lingfeng's ears. Get over here. With Luo Qingtong's eye technique, she could naturally see that Chu Lingfeng didn't have any internal injuries. This drag was enough to kill someone, but to him, it was probably not as serious as the injuries he had suffered in the bloody arena in the past. However, Luo Qingtong was not angry that he had been injured. Instead, it was because he was being humiliated and tortured like this, yet he didn't even fight back. That blockhead! Luo Qingtong's voice resounded in Chu Lingfeng's ears. The latter abruptly opened his eyes. Master! His heart was filled with ecstasy as he abruptly pulled on the iron chains that bound his body. Suddenly, he stood up amidst the neighing of the horses. He looked around, searching for Luo Qingtong's whereabouts. Ah! You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.